welcome in. It's almost time.
All right, everybody, welcome in. This is the Sports Hounds exclusively on A2D Radio. Remember to hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on. He's Brad Ryer. I'm Rob Brinkman. No Doug Benkiewicz tonight. He's off selecting the 18U national team for, I believe, the World Championships, which will be held in Taiwan in, I believe, March. So we're going to get a full scouting report on all the young bucks coming up for Team USA and potentially the major leagues next week. Definitely don't miss that, a special 4th of July scouting edition of the Sports Hounds with myself, Brad, and Doug Benkiewicz. As always, we are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. You miss anything, download us wherever you get your podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. A lot to get into tonight. First, let me tell you about our friends at Philly Sports Trips, the Philly 5 for 5 sports travel company, premium travel and tailgating experience for the passionate fans of Philadelphia. Go see our friend Vince, phillysportstrips.com. A lot of Eagles trips. They've had Phillies trips, Tampa Bay, Monday Nighter, Seattle, LA, and there is also a bus trip. You don't want to fly, you go to the I think it's the Jets game. Either Jets or Giants. They're doing a bus trip. So go check out our friends at Philly Sports Trips. We're also brought to you by Baguio Breads, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pie, sandwiches, cutlets, and meatball. Mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. If you don't have the 10% discount, it's well worth it. They know what they're doing over there at Baguio's. Go check them out. Tell them the Sports Hounds sent you. Kind of in this lull with sports, Brad. Really not much going on. Kind of the calm before the football storm starts up. Got a lot of baseball talk tonight. We had a beautiful, magnificent implosion by the New York Mets bullpen, giving the Phillies yet another series victory. We got the Yankees talk. We got the Angels scoring 25 runs in one game and then losing a series to the Rockies. I mean, the
typical Angels.
Typical Angels. That's damn right. We got the All-Star break coming up. We'll take a look at the standings. We got NBA free agency. The draft just happened. Knicks, Sixers, quiet, but other teams did stuff. Paul George is at the forefront. The Suns have Bradley Beal now, which we touched on last week. There's some free agents we can look at and how the Sixers and the Knicks and all these other teams that are chasing the Denver Nuggets can look to close the gap and potentially win a championship. I think we all know what my feelings are on the Philadelphia 76ers, but we're going to get into it again because that's what we do here.
Suppose you guys happen to get Ayton. I mean,
what are we going to do with that? We have Joel Embiid. Why would we want Ayton?
Why not? He's another really good player. He could be a power forward.
I don't know how many times I have to tell the people, the listeners on A2D Radio, that this is a guard league. Centers, this ain't 2000. Like, you ain't running off championships with a center, even though the Denver Nuggets might. But Jokic is a freak. I feel so embarrassed that I hated on him.
Well, I mean, listen, it's okay. It's okay. We never really got to see him a lot until this year. I mean, in the playoffs, I mean, you see the Denver Nuggets once in a while. I mean, they play in Denver, so it's always 2 hours later. You're not really going to stay up and watch when you have to go to work the next day.
All I can do is learn from it, Brad, and try and be better for my next take.
I didn't realize the guy was such a great passer and just such a great team player.
He's way more than a compiler. Like, Carmelo Anthony was a compiler.
Yeah, no, he's not a compiler. No, he's an unbelievable team player. It almost seems like he'd rather make a great pass than score. And guys like that who can score at will sometimes. Guys like that that's like Larry Bird. Same thing with Larry Bird. He was the same way. But when he needed to hit a shot, that he never missed. He's a spectacular player. This kid, Jokic. He's terrific.
We have a very interesting college baseball Game 3 deciding game in Omaha between two powers of the SEC. Surprise, surprise. They dominate football. They dominate basketball. They dominate baseball. No surprise, the two SEC teams, Florida and LSU. Draft picks galore. See if Doug ran into any of them next week on our scouting 4th of July edition. Doug Mankiewicz, David Roska. Doug Mankiewicz is off. He's part of the coaching staff for the 18U Olympic Team USA national team, and they're starting to get their ducks in a row for the upcoming World Championships. So,
and he will be back next week, guys.
He will be back. He's part of the team. He's here to stay. Just needed a day off. Do some reconnaissance for the Team USA and the sport.
Yeah, he's got to hang out with those kids. You know that. That's that. I mean, I would be doing the same thing. I mean, he's got to get to know these kids, and they're choosing. Basically, what they do is I think what did he say, Rob? They choose 4 teams. There's 4 managers down there. He's one of them.
They're splitting them up. There's 100 kids there, is what he said.
Right.
And that's what they are, kids. 18U national team. They're kids.
Right. Yeah, 20. They're picking 25 guys apiece. Him and Doug and 3 other managers down there.
So then
I
think he said when the camp is over, they're going to be down to 40, and then somewhere down the line they're going to have a round 2 of tryouts, and then they're going to get it down to whatever 23, 25, 26 guys, whatever they're allowed to bring. So that will be.
Yeah, get your next week. Bring your paper and pencils, and write down some of the names he gives you, because he's gonna give you some very interesting information for next week. So,
to me, Metal Mike, we are going to talk hockey tonight. We definitely are going to talk hockey tonight. The NHL free agency is upon us. The draft is Wednesday and Thursday of this week. Danny Briere and Keith Jones seem hell-bent on rearranging this roster.
They want to reset the table, and good for them, because they should. They need to go young. You can expect anybody who doesn't fit the timeline of the young kids that they want to have on the team to be traded.
Kevin Hayes at the middle of rumors. Tony DeAngelo in the middle of rumors.
Well, Kevin Hayes was all but traded until Torrey Krug decided he didn't want to get traded anywhere.
Now, Brad, when you say the timeline, because Krug is 29.
Right. It's too old for the Flyers want to collect a bunch of 21 to 23-year-old players.
Right. That's not Tony Krug, though.
Torrey Krug is 29. Okay?
Right.
Torrey Krug has to be moved to another team. Okay? The Flyers were going to take his money. Okay? And just so they could have a really good defenseman for everybody to learn off of. But Torrey Krug wants no part of Philadelphia. He said absolutely not. And I have a feeling he doesn't want to go anywhere. I think he likes playing in St. Louis, and I think he likes playing for Berube. So and he doesn't have to go. That's the whole thing. Doesn't have to. And Tony DeAngelo, he's almost gone, but right now Carolina is trying to figure out their cap, because they just re-signed Jordan Staal. I think it was a 4-year contract. So, and I think the AAV was like $2.9 million a year, if I'm not mistaken. I could be off by a couple of million, by a couple of $100,000, but
that's a lot for hockey, though.
Well, it's a lot for a guy who plays on the third line. But again, their third line is a complete defensive line that shuts down the other team, and they add offense. They're basically a 2-line scoring team. They have a checking line, and then they have a line that hits. They're really close to being a perfect team. If they somehow or find a sniper on that team, one more sniper, they're going to be almost impossible to stop.
It just seems weird. They kind of dumped DeAngelo last offseason.
Well, because they couldn't afford the $4 million. He wanted $4 million, and the Flyers were willing to wanted him, and at this point they're willing to set. Carolina wanted him back, but they're having trouble. They had to sign. They had to re-sign Staal. I mean, Staal is a critical part of the team. even at his advanced age, he's still a very important part of the team. And he's one of those guys that can win faceoffs, contribute a key goal here and there, and be basically a one of the best, one of the top 5 defensive forwards in the league. So that's a very important piece of the puzzle. And if he's not making that much money, God bless him for staying there.
All right, let's get to our poll question of the night. We'll get to all your comments later on. We got some Flyers chat right flying through. We'll get to the Sixers in the NBA, but we're going to start with the MLB. Our poll question tonight is the Phillies will add a pitcher at the trade deadline. This team needs a pitcher, whether it's bullpen or a starter. They need a pitcher. They also need to get Kyle Schwarber out of left field because he's a
detrimental.
Brad, he's a disaster out there.
Why don't they just put him at first base? I don't get it. He's played first base before.
I don't know.
Didn't he used to catch at one point too?
He was drafted as a catcher, yes.
So, listen, every once in a while when Real Muto needs a rest, he could go play first base and he could catch a couple of games. I don't know. Maybe his legs just can't.
Well, Bryce Harper was drafted as a catcher too. So. Yeah,
but I know Schwarber used to catch and play left field with the Cubs and play first base. But then Rizzo was so good they made him play left, and then he hurt his knee, and then we all know the story. He came back in the World Series and crushed it. But
so
you have a weakness at first base because Cody Clemens is okay, but he's not your ideal first baseman. I mean, you had a good
it's really the primary first baseman is Alec Bohm now, and I'm not buying these Paul Goldschmidt rumors. I don't think the Phillies are going to get Paul Goldschmidt. I know a lot of people on the internet are biting hook, line, and sinker on the Paul Goldschmidt stuff.
St. Louis isn't trading him, and they're not trading. They're certainly not going to trade Arenado. They're not trading those two guys. St. Louis's pitching is the problem, and they'll rebuild, they'll retool and try to get their pitching better over the offseason. But they're going to be selling a few players, but those aren't the two they're going to sell.
Like, I'm looking at these standings. Look, 50-27 for the Braves in the NL East.
They're running away with it.
They're running away with this thing. It ended up being a 2-game sweep. They're going to play a doubleheader for the rainout September 11th. Miami's not going away. They have outstanding pitching, and Sandy Alcantara is having a garbage year, and they have a guy hitting 400 in the middle of their lineup. So the Phillies,
and they don't even have do they have Jazzy Chisholm back, or is
he's playing tonight?
Oh, okay, so he's back tonight.
So he's back in
so
center field.
He missed like 6 weeks.
Yeah, and they're still
playing good. Yeah, and now you get him back in the lineup.
The Marlins, they're dominating at home, and they're 2 games over 500 on the road. 7-3 in their last 10. Phillies also 7-3 in their last 10. Phillies 4 games. That's the difference. Marlins are 2 games over 500 on the road. Phillies are 4 games under 500 on the road. That's the difference in the standings. The Mets are an absolute disaster. I mean, they're going to roll out. They really do stink. The Phillies, I mean, they have Frankie Lindor and Pete Alonso, and they're both all-world. They both homered yesterday. Pete Alonso has just tremendous power. He crushes the ball. And Lindor is offensively a stud, and he's defensively a stud. But past that, the Mets are
players.
The Mets are terrible. And the Phillies caught a break with the pitching breakdown. They didn't face Mad Max or Verlander. Verlander's going tonight and was struggling. I'm not sure what the score is now. They're terrible. I mean, Nimmo is dropping fly balls. I mean, Jeff McNeil, he won the batting champion last year, but that was clearly a career year. He's not a premier player close to at all.
No, he's not close to what he was last year.
I mean, and all the Mets
right
fans.
Now, their bullpen is a disaster. They make your bullpen last year before they got hot. They make your bullpen last year look good. And that was when they were bad. That's how bad the Mets bullpen is.
It was
incredible.
Well, it all started when Mickey Mantle, a.k.a. Brett Beatty, who Mets fans he should play every day. He's so good. He has to throw the ball 10 feet to second base, and he throws it away. and that opened the floodgates. So it was
Well,
error.
didn't they walk in a run and hit a batter?
They walked in 3 runs. I don't think the Phillies got a hit, Brad. It was error. It was like, man, Tom was saying it yesterday. I was listening to the agree or disagree. They went on right after the game. I was listening to it in the car a little bit. It was like error, like walk, single, hit by batter, and then it was 7-6,
and then a walk or something like that. Yeah.
So they got 4 runs in the inning and got 1 hit, I think it was. But I mean, talk about money wasted. I mean, they are the worst team money can buy. I mean, everybody wants to. And then Tom and Mitch Williams, go check out Tom and Mitch Williams. Here's the thing: every Monday at 1:00 here on A2D Radio, they're talking about Schwarber in the leadoff spot. Schwarber,
he should not be leading off.
But what other options do they have? I mean, I think we talked
Trey Turner should be leading off, right?
But he stinks at it. He's not good. The only signs of life Trey Turner has had this season is hitting in the 4-hole.
Oh, all right. Listen, if
he's hitting second now, I think Topper tinkers with the lineup a little too much, or has been at least. He's been a little more consistent lately.
You know what? He's searching. He's searching for something.
But then you have Harper. Then you have Harper in the 4-hole. And look, Harper's not healthy. He's playing and he's healthy enough to play.
I was going to ask you this question because obviously you watch a lot more of the Phillies than I do. Okay. When is it time to start getting concerned about the fact that the man only has 3 home runs right
now? Never. It's going to come. It's just not here yet. I mean, this guy had his whole elbow replaced.
No,
like 6
I know.
Months ago.
And listen,
Brad, every time this guy
he'll be great. Next year he's going to be great again. I just wonder this season though if we're going to see the real Bryce Harper.
He might have 10, but he's hitting singles. He's walking like he's
I know,
contributing
but listen,
to the team.
The home runs are. I mean, they need those home runs right now because
he might only have 10 home runs this year. Like Brad, every time
can they get to the World Series if he's only hitting 10 home runs though? I mean, they may need another bat too. I mean, I think they will definitely add a pitcher at the trade deadline, Rob. If as far as the poll question's concerned, I 100% agree. But I also think they should try to add another hitter.
But like, what position?
A DH anywhere. Just get another hitter and figure it out.
Like, is Bryce going to be able to play the outfield this year? Brad, every time Bryce Harper is not swinging a bat, he has a Terminator like mega cast on his arm.
Yeah, well,
you could make the argument that he shouldn't even be playing yet, and he still has 3 home runs.
But he's contributing. He is contributing. That's for sure. Hopefully, he starts hitting the ball. He starts squaring up the ball more after the All-Star break. I mean, listen, I give him credit for the fact that he came back so quick. I mean, it's unbelievable that he was able to do that.
I mean, I think it was the 6th inning yesterday. The Phillies, all 3 outs were. I think it was. What was it? I think it was Castellanos, Harper, and then Real Muto. All 3 outs were almost home runs straight to the warning track. Now, it was humid out yesterday. Maybe the ball didn't travel like it was supposed to. But the crack off Bryce Harper's bat it sounded just like the Game 5 NLCS homer that sent the Phillies to the World Series. It was an absolute explosion, and it just died at the warning track. Is that humidity? Is that the weather? Or is his pop just not there? This guy.
I mean, listen. I would think that he wouldn't be able to swing as hard with his injury. I mean, doesn't that kind of make sense? He may not be able. He may not get quite the extension that he gets when he's totally healthy. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I couldn't say that for sure. But I'm just thinking out loud. It's probably got something to do with the fact that he can't quite get that extension. In the follow through and everything to just get that extra 5 feet needed to get the home run, and I think
he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it right now.
Not yet.
And JT,
But the whole thing is, I really think they're going to need his power if they're going to get in the playoffs and do something in the playoffs like they did last year. They really are going to need him to start hitting the ball out of the ballpark once in a while too.
Well, the only hope is that the All-Star break's coming up. Maybe you get him a couple days off. Maybe you send him home a couple days before and then rest him a couple days after. Get him a nice big long break, and so he rests up, gets stronger. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think his power is there right now. It could come in September, October when he's more removed from this surgery.
Yeah, I mean, it usually takes guys 9 months,
and he came back in 6.
Yeah,
and he's on base.
And everybody was saying he wasn't supposed to be back till what, mid to late July.
I thought at least the All-Star break, at least.
Yeah, I mean, but really,
I thought maybe even August 1st.
That injury should have been, August 1st was when everybody was saying. All the prognosticators were saying that.
I think that he's going to be juiced in to the DH spot the entire season.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that gives you no flexibility with Kyle Schwarber. Because Kyle Schwarber.
But you can move him to first.
You can move him to first. That's pretty much all you can do.
Okay. And then
move him to first.
So you move him to first. Either you move him to first and you get an outfielder, or you leave him in left and you're trying to get a first baseman.
And Bohm plays third every day.
Right.
Well, that's why this Goldschmidt stuff is gaining steam. I don't buy it, but
I don't think the Cardinals are going to let him go. He's the face of the franchise. I'd be really I mean, he won the MVP last year. I can't imagine that they would trade him that soon. I mean,
they do. The only thing that makes it make sense is that Dave Dombrowski is aggressive. The Phillies are in win now, and all these hotshot prospects that the Cardinals always have are coming to the big leagues, and they're not doing anything. So I don't know. The question is,
do you have the prospects to send back to St. Louis?
I mean, I think Andrew Painter's untouchable. And I think that the front office is going to use that as be like, hey, we had this kid here. He got hurt in spring training. We thought he was going to be our 5th starter. And he's coming back August 1st. There's our pitching acquisition, de facto pitching acquisition.
If you're talking about the Cardinals, Rob, I think the guy you might want to try to get maybe is Montgomery. They might want to trade Montgomery.
I've read Flaherty.
Yeah, Flaherty.
But Flaherty is a disaster.
Flaherty's been up and down the whole season. For the most part, he's been bad. Yeah, he's been bad for most of the season. It's tough. The Cardinals just have no pitching. That's really the issue with them right now. So, and they're going to have.
They have a sexy closer, Jordan Hicks, that I wouldn't mind getting. I think he would help your Yankees. He would help a lot of teams.
That's a guy. That's a guy that they might trade. Because, you can always find another closer. You can always find another reliever that's a good reliever. I mean, the Yankees don't really have a closer, but would you say they have a bad bullpen, though, this year? I mean, their bullpen's got
I don't think it's bad. No, I mean, they have Michael King. Michael King, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's been awful until yesterday. Yesterday, he really came up big against Texas.
I mean, these relievers, they're like kickers in football.
Yeah.
Goalies in hockey. If they get in a funk and they can't do anything right
and out of nowhere, they come back. They come back and get the best and make get a save against the best offensive team in the American League.
Yeah, I do think Michael King is a competent closer. Look at Craig Kimbrell in Philadelphia. Topper's given him the 9th inning. He's been absolutely spectacular. 97, 98 on the gun.
Yeah,
he just got his 400th save.
Yeah, he's been really good. And you know what? Right now, the problem with the Phillies is that they've been having trouble getting to him. They haven't really built the bridge very well. That's part of it.
Not yet, because the Phillies have just not put anything together all at once the whole season. They had another base running mishap yesterday. Marsh is hot, then he's cold. Schwarber's hot, then he's cold. JT Realmuto looks lost right now at the plate. Harper's going through things with his elbow. There's no Hoskins.
Last year, you had the same problem with him, and then he got red hot in the second half of the season.
Oh, I have every confidence in
Realmuto. If there's nothing physically wrong with him, he will come back and he'll be fine.
Well, and then he's not bringing his offensive struggles to the field. He's
No,
still
he
a
never
Gold Glove
does.
caliber.
He never does.
Gold Glove caliber catcher.
He's still an outstanding player.
But I don't know if he's guessing. I don't know if he's guessing on pitches rather than just seeing the ball and hitting the ball. But he's flailing at everything. His back foot is like dropping. It's tough to watch him. His ABs right now. Then you have these role players. Bowen played good yesterday. Think he went 3 for 4, but he had the base running mistake that almost cost him. Thank God the Mets are a tragic disaster and gave it up, but that could have very well cost him the game. And then you have Nola hot and cold. Wheeler's been pretty consistent. Boy, I mean, it was so humid at the ball yard yesterday. I thought Wheeler was going to get pulled with 70 pitches. I mean, he was working hard.
He was struggling yesterday.
It was tough to play in. I'm sure grinding it out as a pitcher and those jerseys and those long pants, that couldn't have been easy. And Zach Wheeler kept them in the ball game. Ranger Suarez has been terrific, but he was hurt the first part of the year. Taijuan Walker was awful. Now he's Steve Carlton. Like, they gotta get some consistency. And like, they're winning series, but everyone in Philadelphia is like still kind of like, I'm not really sure if they're good. Like, they have to be good. There's too many high caliber good players for them to be.
If you look at the baseball card, you know that they're good. Just take a look behind their baseball card at their stats. They're going to play to their the back of their baseball card eventually. By the end of the season, if they're hitting 230 and they're lifetime 280 hitters, they'll end up hitting close to 280 because that's what they do.
Then I was getting into the standings, like their competition, like Braves, they're the East champions. I'm ready to crown them. The Phillies can't beat the Braves over 162 games. I do think the Phillies can beat the Braves in a 5 or 7 game series like they did last year.
They proved it last year.
Like,
the only problem I have is that I am very concerned about the fact that with the Phillies that they're not hitting. And again, it's more than it's. They really need Bryce Harper to be able to hit the ball out of the ballpark if they're going to beat the Braves in a playoff series. That's the key. Remember, they don't have Hoskins, and Kyle Schwarber can't be the only one hitting home runs on this team. Somebody else has to contribute, which is why I think they're going to go and they're going to get a bat. Now, Goldschmidt, yeah, he'd be great. I mean, let's be honest, but I wouldn't count on him. But I think they're going to bring in somebody fairly significant who can hit, who's going to supply some power and a little juice to this team. I think that's going to happen. They'll find a way to do it. I mean, Dombrowski is not a top general manager in baseball for nothing. He's a proven winner, and he'll find a way. That you can be pretty sure of. He'll find somebody to get out there to send out there and be a consistent hitter.
But I mean, you look at the National League landscape and what the Phillies are up against to grab one of these wild cards.
It's not going to be as easy as it was last year.
You are correct. Right now, it's Miami. Miami's the number 1 wild card. You have the Giants at 10 games over 500 for the Giants,
which is shocking.
And then you have Dodgers, who are currently in 3rd place in the West. My Diamondbacks leading the West.
Dodgers should be getting Urias back pretty soon, though.
Urias, and then they have May on the shelf too.
Is May going to come back?
I don't know.
Yeah, Urias supposedly, and I mean, he's been out like almost a month now, and he was getting clobbered before he went on the IL. So that's another thing.
Seems like his return's imminent.
Yeah, he should be back pretty soon. So I would think that would help the Dodgers quite a bit.
And then you have the Brewers and the Phillies are both 40 and 37. The Padres are.
The Phillies are not as the Phillies are better than the Brewers. So I refuse to believe that the Brewers are going to end up better than the Phillies at the end of the season. I know they got the 3 big pitchers, but I'm not buying that.
Well, Burns has been less than Cy Young this year.
I know, but I think he'll have a good second half.
He had a very ugly arbitration hearing in before the season. That.
Well, yeah, I
think
remember that.
I think he got a little butthurt about it.
Yeah, he wanted to get traded. I remember that, and then the Yankees were prominently talked about, but the Yankees aren't gonna go out and break up their minor league system for him. I don't think they would do that. Not
and
for
then
him.
You have teams like 2 games under 500. The Cubs. The Cubs are Phillies are going to Wrigley after they. I think this week they're playing Tuesday, and then they have the Nationals over the weekend at home.
So they have an opportunity. We'll see though, because they've really.
And then you just to finish up the contenders like the Pirates, the Mets, the Cardinals, the Nationals, and the Rockies. I'm writing those 5 off. They're just not good baseball teams. Then you have right above the Pirates is astonishingly the San Diego Padres, who are 4 games under 500, 6.5 back of the final wild card spot. Are they going to get hot? So like this National League wild card is going to be really tough and really competitive. And you're absolutely right. It's going to be a whole heck of a lot harder than last year to grab one of those 3 spots. Now,
the only saving grace though is the fact that because it's so competitive, it may not take more than 88 wins, 89 wins, because everybody's going to be knocking each other off because there's a lot of good teams now.
But like you look at this, like is Miami going to add at the trade deadline?
They might.
I don't know. A small market, who knows? They might. You're right.
They might. They may not. Listen, they're obviously not going to add a $30 million ball player, but I mean they're smart. That Kim NG is she's a little tiger down there, and she knows what she's doing. And I guarantee you, she'll find herself a nice, low cost, solid player to add to that lineup, and we'll see what happens. She is a really good GM. That woman, I got to give her a lot of credit. I didn't think that she had it in her to be able to pull off some of the trades she's made. And
I mean, she trades in the offseason. One of the trades for Araz, he's hitting 412.
Yeah, that guy.
It's July 4th. It's basically July 4th. The guy's hitting 412.
Won
the trade. Good job.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Lopez has pitched well for the Twins. Let's not throw him down the toilet. But I mean, as Doug said, he wanted to tackle him when he was going out the door. I understand why.
And then you have the Giants. Like, are they going to add?
Oh, the Giants have plenty of money. They'll if they see that that,
but I always hear that, and they never make splashes.
Well, it depends on who's available, and don't forget, the Giants. I just have this weird feeling about them that they may end up trying to get Shohei Ohtani
at the deadline or in the offseason?
In the offseason. But
I mean, I can see that.
I don't know what their farm. See, I don't know anything about the Giants' farm system. I don't know if they've got guys in the farm system that they could trade to the Angels. I don't think the Angels. There's a lot of talk about the Angels trading him in the at the trade deadline. There's no way they're going to trade him. They're still mathematically alive in the wild card race. So I don't see that happening at all.
Well, like Doug said a couple weeks, he's a $400 million pitcher and he's a $400 million hitter.
Right. He's a two. Yeah. Doug's right.
What's this guy going to get? What's this guy going to get?
Probably like 400 to 500 million. Whew. I don't know who could afford.
I mean, he's definitely going to get the biggest contract ever.
Yeah, but he wants to play. And he probably still wants to play in the West Coast. I don't think that's going to change. Honestly, I just don't see that. I don't see that changing. If he wants to play on the West Coast, and he wants to make all that money, he's going to have to play for the Giants or the Dodgers. Those are the only 2 teams out west that can afford to spend that kind of money.
So, like, I'm looking at this wild card, and I'm like, the Marlins, they might shift around a little bit. Giants, they might shift around a little bit. I don't see them making big splashes at the deadline.
I could see the Giants doing it. I don't see the Marlins, but the Marlins will probably make a really smart trade and get a guy who can hit the ball a little bit and be effective. Get like a professional type of hitter on the team, and they'll probably work it out so that they don't have to pay a lot of the money either. They got a good farm system, and they'll give up a good player in their farm system and still be really good.
And then you have the Brewers. Like, I don't see them buying. They look for every excuse in the book not to pay people.
Cheap. Yeah, they're cheap. They won't.
I mean, so you have the Dodgers who are going to buy. Like, they're always aggressive. They're always adding something. You have the Phillies.
Padres?
You have the. I don't
are
know
they
what
buy?
I don't know what the Padres are going to do. I don't know what the Padres are. The Padres are just like this super conglomerate of all-stars, and they suck.
Yeah, they have no pitching either.
Yu Darvish he's been okay.
Yeah, but the rest of them haven't. Musgrove hasn't really been all that good.
He's okay. I mean, he started the season on the IL. He dropped a weight on his foot in spring training and had to miss a bunch of time.
Yeah, and
he's okay.
He started off slow, but he's pitching a little better. But they need more than that.
And then you look at the Cardinals. Another reason why I don't buy the Goldschmidt rumors is you go to the National League Central standings, which I fully believe will be a one-bid league when it comes to playoff berths. I mean, the Cardinals have been awful. They're 32-45. They're only 8.5 games out. The division.
They stink though. I don't see them being.
So like the Reds are going to play postseason baseball.
They might. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. They play hard. I mean, that is one team. They got a lot of gamers on their team.
And now they have Votto back, who seems rejuvenated. He's hitting the cover off the ball.
Yeah, that doesn't hurt. Get him.
Elliot, what's his name? Elliot De La Cruz.
Yes,
guy's electric. Jonathan India, terrific ball player. Justin Fraley's on a couple of my fantasy teams. He's been fantastic.
He's not bad. Senzel's been playing better for them. I mean, they're not.
Hunter Green has electric stuff. Like, are they going to step up and buy though?
I've heard that they are going to be buyers at the trade deadline. Everything
I've read
is that they plan that they're going to be buyers. I think for the city of Cincinnati and for that team, there's not that many years that they can go out and compete. And if they're in first place at the All-Star break, or they're within 2 or 3 games of first place at the All-Star break, they've got to go in, Rob. They got to try. Because with them, lightning only strikes maybe 2 or 3 times every 10 years for them to have a chance to make the postseason. And if they have a shot to make it, they've got to take their best swing.
But like, I'm looking at like the dog shit of the league, right? Like the teams that are going to be 1,000% trying to accumulate prospects for a rebuild.
Okay.
Like who? Like
Oakland.
I mean, Oakland's 20-60. Oakland's so bad though. I don't even know if I want any of their players. Who do I want? Ryan Noda, he's on a couple of my fantasy teams. He plays first base.
Fairbanks?
Isn't he on the Rays?
No. The guy that just came back from being injured.
I don't even know who's on their team. But like the Mariners have been a colossal disappointment in the West. My American League champion pick.
They've been bad this year. I don't know what's going on with that. They're not hitting. I mean, that's what's really that's the issue with them.
If I'm Dave Dombrowski, can I grab Ty France or one of those guys if they continue to lose? Because these extra wild card spots, they keep teams in it for longer, so teams are less reluctant to sell.
Yeah, that's true.
Oakland stinks, but like, who do I want on Oakland? Ryan Noda?
Oh, no, you know what? Paul, I'm sorry, I got the wrong name. Paul Blackburn.
Paul Blackburn. I mean, all due respect to Paul Blackburn. I know he strikes out some guys sometimes, but if Dave Dombrowski comes to the out of the trade deadline with Paul Blackburn and tries to tell me he wants to win a championship and this is the guy that's going to help us do that, sorry, I'm not buying that at all.
Let's see. I'm just looking to see
Like,
his.
are the Padres going to continue to lose? Are they going to give up on Hader?
Oh no, I don't think you're gonna see that unloading guys. Paul Blackburn is the pitcher I was talking about. He's okay, but I mean he's not. He's like a fourth pitcher on a good team. So
If that.
yeah, there's really nothing. There's really nothing there. Kansas City. I mean, what Chapman? He could get traded, but he's crazy. I mean, is he someone you could trust to come in and not walk the bases loaded every other game?
I mean, Chapman at this stage of his career, especially if he comes to the Phillies, like he's going to be a 7th, 8th inning guy. I'm cool with Kimbrel. He's been good. He's a veteran. He seems to be rejuvenated in terms of his stuff. So, I don't need a closer.
The problem with Chapman is Chapman's not even a closer on Kansas City.
No, I mean, he's clearly lost a little bit.
A lot, actually.
I know he's your boy.
Yeah, I love Chapman, but it really he was really really bad at the end of the season last year.
But then you have the White Sox.
The White Sox, there are some guys on the White Sox who might be dealt. Giolito for one.
You're throwing in the towel as the Chicago White Sox when you're 6 games back of the Twins?
The Twins are barely over 500.
Well, the division stinks. Both the Central divisions stink.
I know.
The
Royals.
There's
really. I mean, what Bobby Witt? They're not going to trade him. Salvador Perez is a catcher. You don't need a catcher. Their pitching is horrible, so I don't see anybody who'd help you there.
I mean, maybe
the first baseman is Nick Prado now because the guy
Pasquantino got hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt.
Devastating to my fantasy team, Brad. He was good.
See all the injuries I have in mine?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Pasquantino. Yeah, I just played you.
Pasquantino is.
Yeah, I had a bye week.
I don't know. We don't even know if he's coming back. I mean,
he's not coming back. He got surgery, a torn labrum. I forgot if it was hip or his shoulder. Done. So he's done.
Yeah, he's done for the season. Then.
He was perfect for our scoring system too. Walked all the time and never struck out.
That is
the Red Sox are in last place, but they're over 500.
They're not going to.
Who are the sellers?
The Red Sox are not going to sell. Okay, they don't. First of all, they don't really have. What do you think they're going to do? Sell? They're not going to sell Devers.
No, they just signed him.
They just signed him, so they're not selling him. Really, who is it that's going to get sold? Well, they did all that last year. Now they're relying on young players, and they're only going to get better. I mean, I would think the Red Sox might be buying if they could find something that'll go beyond this year. I mean, I don't see them making the playoffs, but
you look at because the American League, I'm gonna bring up these wild card standings.
It's close.
Oakland stinks. Kansas City stinks.
Yeah, there's nobody on either one of those.
Detroit was playing good there for a little bit in the beginning, but
Detroit might be an interesting team to look at. I mean,
but who? Eduardo Rodriguez is hurt right now, and he makes a lot of money. Javi Baez, he's fell off.
He makes way too much money,
and he's not good.
No, he's not anymore.
Dalton Varisho, can you actually make so? GMs are going to have to be creative and make baseball trades here. I think at the deadline, can you steal Dalton Varisho from the Toronto Blue Jays?
No,
I don't know.
They're not going to trade him.
He stinks.
Yeah, but they gave up a lot for him.
I mean,
so
really.
I can't see that happen. I mean, Matthew Boyd's been up and down. He certainly has the talent. I mean, his arm is starting to get back into shape, and he's been playing better. But I don't know if he's somebody you could trust in a big spot at this point. I mean, really, the Tigers, I don't see anybody on the Tigers that I would want, that I would try to make a play for at the trade deadline. Michael Lorenzen, would you trust him to be like to be a relief pitcher?
No.
And I wouldn't either. So
I'd rather
I'm
take
just looking at some of the guys on the team. I mean, Cabrera or Miguel Cabrera. Do you think he's still a help? I don't think so. And Mean Metal Mike, they're not. Mike Trout is not going to get traded. So
No, probably not. Bob
No.
Brinkman. I don't see the Phillies adding a bat. I don't think Harper is healthy enough to play in the field or even first base. The only pos is a first baseman with some pop. It's going to be interesting because I do think
you could always find them. You can always find a first baseman who can hit a little bit.
I hope so. They're going to have to. I think that's the only thing you can do. Unless Harper can play first base. If he gets cleared, I think that's the logical.
Yeah,
that's the logical thing because then you go Bohm third, Sosa's your utility guy, and then you move Schwartz to DH. Maybe you put Sosa in left.
Well, then you could try to get an outfielder.
Then you can try and get an outfielder. Let's get to some comments here. Comments brought to you by who we got here. Alan Foy of eXp Realty, looking to buy or sell a home, looking for a career in career or brokerage. Contact Alan Foy of eXp Realty, 302-682-8820. I mean, the White Sox, if the White Sox keep losing, I mean, they have a lot of pieces, I think, that can help individual teams. Like Lance Lynn. Like, I would trade for Lance Lynn today.
Would you trade for Giolito?
Giolito, Cease, Kopech, any of those pitchers?
Giolito is in the last year of his contract. He can walk at the end of the year. A lot of talk about him getting traded.
I would trade my entire farm system for Dylan Cease.
Dylan Cease has not been good this year.
I understand that, but I do think
he has a lot of ability, but he's not been real good this year.
Well, something's off with that organization there. So maybe a change of scenery. I mean, this guy almost won the Cy Young last year. Let's not forget that. And he's got 3 years of control. And if you trade for Dylan Cease, you're not boxed in to giving Aaron Nola way too much money in the offseason because you're just going to be strapped to fill out your starting five in rotation. And then you have Painter. So I wouldn't trade the farm for him. I'm keeping Painter. But everyone else I can trade for Dylan Cease.
Well, what about a guy like Kyle Freeland on Colorado?
That's a name. That's definitely a name. I would take Kyle.
That's a guy. Listen, we know he's not an ace, but you know what? He's a pretty good pitcher. I mean, you put him on a good team in a reasonable ballpark. I think you get your money's worth out of him.
Well, that's the reason I think Kyle Freeland is really underrated because his stats, his ERA especially, is inflated because of where he plays.
Skewed because of Colorado. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he's a pretty good pitcher.
And they stink. So
yeah.
he doesn't
they
hard
would
to come by for him.
Yeah, I think if they could get the couple of decent prospects for him. And that you're not going to have to trade your top prospects for a guy like him.
True.
You could probably get by like giving up like maybe your 8th and 12th best prospects for him. I would think. I mean, it's not like you have to give up your number one prospect. You're not going to have to give up a guy like Painter for him. I mean, you have to kind of look at it. A guy like Giolito, you're going to have to trade. Not your top prospects, but you're probably going to have to trade maybe your 3rd and your 5th top prospects because Giolito can walk after this year, and maybe if you got him, you might want to sign him to a long-term contract. There's always that too.
Yeah, but I'm telling the White Sox that I'm just renting him. I'm driving the price down.
No, of course. I'm just saying though that when you're trading a guy at the trade deadline that's going to be a free agent. You know, the White Sox could think, okay, we could trade him and then re-sign him in the offseason. Something along those lines.
I think the Phils wait and give Painter a shot. We need to figure out the bullpen.
I mean, either way, I think they need to add another pitcher. I think they need to add another pitcher and they need to add another hitter. I really think they need some thump in that lineup. No.
Funny, I mean, when it happened, everyone who hated Reese Scott, they'll be better off. He stinks at defense. Like, okay.
Yeah, but he can hit home runs.
350 on base, 30 home runs. It's a big deal. It was a big deal now when it happened, and it's a big deal now. And everyone's like, well, everyone's looking around with their binoculars. Where's the pop? Where's the pop? Where's the pop? Oh, it tore its ACL in spring training, and everyone just turned their nose up at it and said it wasn't a big deal. Smart people like me and smart people like you, smart people like Tom Arnone and all the people here at A2D Radio told you.
I told you guys.
It was a big deal.
I thought that was a major problem. It's not like where are you coming up with another guy who's going to have 30 home runs and 80 RBIs?
Don't. And you're not getting that at the trade deadline either.
No, and I don't care if his average is 238. Big freaking deal. You know,
nobody cares about that anymore.
Yeah, no. Bottom line is he hits the ball out of the ballpark. You have to pitch carefully to him. He makes the pitchers throw a lot of pitches. The effect is felt throughout the whole lineup. You know, when he wears down pitchers because he's a dangerous hitter. You know, I mean, it's just like the Yankees
he's a
with
team
Judge.
leader too.
It's just like a guy like Judge. You can't read guys like that. You just can't. No matter who you get, you know, the top player, when you're talking about guys who are top-notch sluggers and put a lot of runs on the board for you, you can't just replace those guys. You know, somebody has to step up, and if nobody's stepping up and you want to try to bring somebody in, you have to do it, but it's not easy. There's not an abundance of players to go out and get anymore.
Well, he's also a team leader.
Yeah, you look at the bad teams, okay? There's really not a lot of good players on the bad teams. I mean, there's a reason why some of these bad teams are as bad as they are. Now, the Mets, there's some decent players on their team, but the problem is they all make a ton of money. So,
well, Uncle Stevie's never going to sell.
No, he won't. But most of the guys on that team are making a ridiculous amount of money. I know they just traded Eduardo Escobar to the Angels. I found out about that over the weekend, which kind of surprised me. But
yeah, the Angels traded for Mike Moustakas too.
Yeah, I mean,
trying to entice Shohei Ohtani to stay with Mike Moustakas and Eduardo Escobar. Good luck with that.
Escobar's okay, but he's
okay.
Not. He's okay. He's not. I mean, like, you know, if they really want to show him that they want him to stay, you know, bring in Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
don't score 25 runs in the first game of a 3-game series against the worst team in the National League, and then lose the next 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that would help too to entice Mr. Shohei. Not to say Ryan Swoop's in the house. What's up, Ryan?
Hello, Ryan. Uh-oh. It appears that we lost Ryan for a moment, but that we lost Rob for a moment. But at this point, you know, the Angels, we're getting back to the Angels again, Rob.
Yeah.
As far as the Angels are concerned, I don't know what it is about that team, but, you know, if there's a way to mess up a game, they're going to find it.
We talk about this all the time. The Sixers, the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Mets, the Angels. Like, I'm sure you could rattle off a couple hockey teams. The Maple Leafs always seem to fall short of expectations.
Yeah,
some of these teams just don't get it, and they crumble. And it's the same teams year after year, decade after decade.
Yeah, like the Minnesota Wild, they're another team. Every year, it's the same thing. They never get themselves over the hump. They can never get out of the first round of the playoffs too. That's another team.
Greg Milakovic in the house. What's up, Greg? Breaking things down yesterday after the Phillies game. A beautiful Mets collapse.
Classic. Again. Classic. Ladies and gentlemen, your New York Mets.
Oh, man, they were talking all their shit all game. Everything was going their way. Then the 8th. Then you saw they shrunk. They
No,
shrunk and disappeared.
they showed you why
They
they're so
left.
bad this
They
year.
left. There was one sitting next to me. I was talking to him like a little bit. He was cool. He's a young kid. And I looked over in the 8th, and he wasn't there anymore. He left.
You know what? One time I was at a Yankee Met game with Bob, and what was it? The Mets. I think DeGrom was pitching, and he was pitching a no-hitter through the first 5 innings. And this kid in front of us was the most obnoxious MF I've ever seen at a game. Every time he got a guy out, he was sticking his fingers up. 1 out, 2 outs, 3 outs. And then he's turning around and waving at everybody. And, all the Yankee fans are yelling, sit the hell down and, keep doing that. You're going to get thrown on the field. And, the usual lovely talk from the New York Yankee crowd when they're all pissed off. Well, DeGrom ended up throwing a lot of pitches, and he got taken out I think after the 6th inning because the Yankees started whacking the ball on him. And then the 7th, the Yankees scored like 5 runs, and they blew the Mets away. And it was hilarious while the Yankees were scoring, everybody's standing up and pointing at this kid. They're going 1 when they're scoring, then 2 when they're scoring this second round, 3, and they went. I think they scored 5 runs, and they're all yelling at this, and then the asshole chant started, and he was cool.
Yeah. Mike, whatever happened to Steven Strasburg's career, he can't stay healthy.
No, his body just can't take the vigors of baseball. It's unfortunate. Very, very talented pitcher. I mean, the 1 year he was able to be healthy, they won a championship. He's never even around long enough to get traded.
No, and he makes a bunch of money.
Yep. I mean, that team, boy, what a disaster that team is.
Well, I mean, they kind of knew what they were. Rizzo's really smart. Mike Rizzo, their GM, he's really smart.
Yeah, I have no doubt.
Harper walked, and then they traded Trey Turner and Scherzer to the Dodgers.
And then Anthony,
Rendon
left. I mean, they kind of.
That was kind of smart though, because he hasn't done nothing in L.A.
No, all he's done is get hurt, which is again, it's the jinx of the Angels.
So I mean,
the Angels are kind of like the Mets, Rob. Everything they touch, they destroy. Any good player that comes to the Mets seems to get, with the exception of Lindor, it seems like every player that comes to the Mets ends up being horrible by the time the middle of the season occurs. It never seems to fail with them.
Brian Wilson's in the house. He disagrees to the poll. He wants a right-handed bat. Fair, but and we have like a month before this deadline, and they're gonna have a break for the All-Star game to figure things out, kind of regroup. Like, what position do you target for that bat?
France would be I think you came up with the right guy. France would be a nice pickup.
Well, you got to convince them to sell.
The Mariners going to sell though. I mean, that guy's not making a lot of money yet, so I don't know if they'd be willing to give up.
Like, he's a veteran though. He's not some hotshot prospect. Like,
yeah, that's true. He's a solid player, but he's not. I mean, but he's definitely an upgrade over what you have over there right now. Is he really? I mean, would you rather?
Is Bryce going to have? Is Bryce going to? The $1 million question is Bryce going to be able to play the field?
I wouldn't count on that.
I wouldn't count on that either. I completely agree with you.
I would think if they really want to be smart, what they need to do, what they should do is try to get a first baseman and just let him DH all season and not let him throw a baseball and risk having him re-injure himself. He's too important for the next however many years he's going to be around to risk messing up his arm again for another year. I mean, it just doesn't. To me, it doesn't make sense. You know, the best thing they could do for him is just let him DH this year, and whatever happens, happens. But he'll be 100% Bryce again next year. I mean that's what I would do. But again, I don't run the Phillies, and it's not something I can tell them what to do. Nobody's going to listen to me, that's for sure. So, I mean, that's just an opinion.
Let's talk about your Yankees, Brad.
Yankees are playing better now. They seem to have stopped hanging on to this thing. When is Judge going to come back? Judge may not come back this year. There are a lot of
It's that bad.
Yeah, he tore a ligament in his big toe, and it's still hurt. He can't walk on it without it hurting. We don't know what the deal is. There's no timeline, and nobody has ever had an injury like this in baseball. So they really don't know what they're dealing with and how quickly they can get him back on board. So, I think when the Yankees finally heard that news, I think they stopped crying in their beer and woke up against Seattle and started playing. And you know what? They had a pretty tough homestand against Seattle and Texas, and they could have really gotten away from them, but they managed to win 2 out of 3 in each series. Now they go on the road. They're going to play Oakland, and they're going to play St. Louis, 2 crappy teams. I think they have a very good chance to win, maybe 5 out of 6 and strengthen their hold on the final wild card. And you know what? They're good. They're just going to have to deal with the fact that Aaron Judge may not play again this year. And if he does play again, may not be till September. So you can't sit there and cry about the fact that he's not on the team. What are we going to do? Oh, poor pitiful us. Everybody else will be chomping at the bit to play them if they continue to let this be a disaster. So it's good to see that they finally woke up this weekend and got clutch. Harrison Bader has absolutely been a huge. He's a winning player, Rob. He does everything
right.
He does everything the right way. He's a real good defender. He doesn't try to hit home runs. He tries to get on base. He'll take the outside pitch to right field. And in Yankee Stadium, if you take the ball to right field hard enough, it's not too hard to poke it over that short porch in right. And he occasionally has some pull power, and he can run. He can steal bases.
Very fast.
Is he an all-star? No, but he's a real solid player. I think he's a winning player and the kind of player that can start on a championship level team. He's not going to kill you. His batting average is not going to kill you because he's such a solid defender in center field, and they really kind of need that. Now Stanton hasn't hit at all, and that's a big problem. And Donaldson is just pathetic. And at this point, Rizzo's got to start hitting, and he's starting to hit a little bit. But you're talking about guys who are going through slumps like 6 for 50, that kind of slump.
I thought Rizzo was going to have a great year, because he got shifted a lot. I thought
he got off to a terrific start. He was batting over 400. For a while, and he was batting over 300 for a while. He took a slump and it went all the way down to 260. Now I think he's back up to like 270 to 275 in that area. So he's starting to get the average up again, but he hasn't hit a home run all month. And that shouldn't happen. Yeah, that shouldn't happen when you're playing.
Not for a lefty in Yankee Stadium.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Really, the guy that's kind of saved him for the last couple of weeks is Billy McKinney, believe it or not. Who is a guy who grew up in their organization. He was traded. Who was he traded? He was traded part of the J Happ trade, like back in 2004.
I remember him on the Royals at some point.
He's been on.
No?
He's been on every. He's been on probably the Royals, and he's probably played, on more teams than we could imagine. But Cashman signed him as a. To a minor league deal, and he's come up and he's really hit the ball. He's been doing a nice job filling in right now. So we'll see. I don't. Is he for real? Probably not. I mean, his batting average is now down to, I believe, 302. I mean, he was hitting in the high 380s for a while when he first came up, and he was whacking the ball all over the place. But there's a reason why you get a minor league contract, and that's because you're not very good. and you just got to wonder how long that's going to continue. I mean, I hope it continues, but I think these next 6 games is a big opportunity for the Yankees to fatten up and make a nice record for themselves, and put themselves in a position where if they can go out and get themselves another bat, if they get themselves another bat, it could be a factor.
Well, I definitely, especially if Judge is going to be out for as long as you said. I mean, you see a toe injury, and I watch the Yankees from a distance. I like the Yankees. I like their history.
I think they're in big trouble this year if they can't find somebody.
Well, you certainly need a bat. You need to hope that Rodon can pitch at some point, which he's coming from what I read, right?
He's supposed. I'll tell you what, he pitched yesterday and pitched 4 more scoreless innings. He hasn't. I think he gave up 1 run in 8 innings.
This is in the minors, right?
Right, in AAA, and he's getting a lot of strikeouts, and I think he's up to. I think he threw 50 pitches in his last game. So I think his next outing he's gonna have one more outing in the minor leagues on his rehab. So you could probably expect to see him early July, probably next week.
After the All-Star break at the latest.
No, I think next week. I think the beginning of next week
for the Yankees, because
that's going to be a major assist for them to have him back, because they really
you get in that wild. Well, the Phillies and the Yankees, they're very similar, Brad.
They have the same issue. They have the same issues right now. Except the Yankees right now are missing Rodon, Nestor Cortez, and what's his name? The guy they got from the A's last year. All those guys. Montes. They're missing three of their rotation pieces. I mean,
by the way, Aaron Judge is out too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. And if you look at the bullpen, they're missing Efros, who they got from the Cubs, who was very effective last year. They're missing Johnny Loizaga, who's been a huge factor in their bullpen. They haven't had him since April. Lou Trevino, unfortunately, is out for the season as well. They're missing a lot of guys still. It's you don't realize it until you start counting all these guys that are hurt. They're missing 6.
Well, I'm kind of talking about this. Talking about the standings as in terms of you have the Rays in the East, we have the Braves. They're basically
we're not catching the Rays. There's
the Phillies aren't catching the Braves.
Yeah, there's no way that's happening. The only difference with the Yankees is the Yankees right now are in the wild card.
Currently the second wild. All 3 wild cards are from the American League East,
which is not surprising. I predicted that at the beginning of the season.
And then you have Texas. Texas is the darling, because everything they've done except for DeGrom has turned to gold.
Yeah, I know it has.
They have Simeon Seager, Josh Jung, Aroldis Garcia. Aroldis Garcia should start in the All-Star game, by the way. That guy's a stud.
And by the way, that guy Heim, their catcher,
he's terrific as well.
He is a terrific hitter. Oh my God, is he good? I mean,
so they're for real too.
They're for real. They've got some real good sticks. And you know what? The pitching so far has been good enough. I mean, you take a look at it. Eovaldi is pitching very well for them.
Haney's good.
Haney's been pitching good. Well. It's shocking that Haney's been as good as he has, but he's been really good. And who was it? The other Martin
Perez is
Martin
good.
Perez has been really good this year. They've had their pitching's been really good, and their bullpen has been lights out this year.
I feel like I'm missing somebody.
You are, because I'm missing the same person. I just can't think of who it was.
Dane Dunning has been.
Dane Dunning.
Competent.
He's been more than that, Rob. He's got like a 2.6 ERA. He's just, he's not a good fantasy pitcher because he
only goes like 4.
Yeah,
and he goes like 4 innings.
No,
5 innings maybe.
He usually goes 6, and he throws nothing but ground balls. He gets ground ball outs. That's his thing. He's got a really good sinker, and everybody hits the ball on the ground. He lets everybody hit, and he hits pitches to contact, so he's able to stay in the game. It's like he's like Stroman. You're not going to get a lot of strikeouts, but he gets outs because he throws strikes and makes guys hit ground balls to the shortstop and the second baseman.
And then Houston is a half game back of Toronto. So Houston, if it ended today, Houston would not be in the playoffs.
Houston has a problem right now. They have a problem in that their best hitter is injured, just like the Yankees. Alvarez is not. Yordan Alvarez is not going to. They're not going to make the playoffs if they don't have Yordan Alvarez. Sorry, that ain't going to happen.
I am not clapping at the Yordan Alvarez injury. They definitely need that. You're right. But LSU just hit another home run.
Oh, there you go.
Tigers up 9-2 in the fourth.
I think you got that game.
Florida's pretty good, but I mean LSU's good. And I knew when they got drubbed. Yeah, they lost 24-3 yesterday.
Oh,
in game 2 of the series. So LSU went out and won game 1. Then they lost 24-3 yesterday.
Yeah, well, it's sometimes
if you have any heart at all, Brad, like you're going to come up after getting drubbed 24-3 and put up
you're going to come back.
You're going to get your best.
Yeah.
There's another base hit.
Yeah, you're going to come back pissed off.
We're cruising.
Kind of like what happened. It's like what happened with the Yankees against Seattle. Okay, they lose 15-5 in the third game of that series after they won the first 2 games, and then they lose a tough one on Friday night because Aaron Boone himself and cost the Yankees a ball game. But they came back and won the next 2 games, and actually hit the ball yesterday, which kind of was stunning, but they did it. So.
Looks like I'll be afford to eat lunch this week with my financial investment in the LSU.
And there you go. Very good. Very good. Well, that was
Florida's got to Florida. Yeah, I mean, me, Metal Mike. Which college pitchers right now could you see being in the big leagues? There's a couple. I'm gonna pull up a mock draft. Definitely tune in next week. Me and Metal Mike. We'll have Doug Minkiewicz on. He's gonna give us the whole scoop of his team USA gallivanting about the future of baseball. This is MLB Pipeline's latest mock draft. I'm trying to think of the name. Wyatt Langford. Don's right. His name's Paul Skeens from LSU.
I've heard of him.
He's huge. He's big, huge, strong. He's got electric stuff. And
yeah, I've heard
by
of
the
him.
way,
he's supposed to be. I think they said they think he could be the number 1 pick in the draft.
He's on this. He is.
Yeah,
who's the kid from? See, I don't know, because I've been watching the College World Series and I can tell you who's good, but I don't know what their pro prospects are, or if they're going to be top picks.
Yeah, well, we're not.
Because you had the kid from, I think he was from Oral Roberts, the pitcher, who they just pitched every game. Rhett Louders from Wake Forest. They were the number 1 overall seed in the College World Series. Obviously, they got taken out by LSU or Florida. I don't know. But he's a pitcher. He's projected to go number 8. MLB draft will be over the All-Star break in mid-July. That's high school kid. Chase Doolander, he's from Tennessee, another SEC guy. Throws really, 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 really hard. So, I mean, there's guys. There's guys out there. Hurston Waldrep, he's playing right now. Well, he's on the Florida Gators. He's going to be in the big leagues. I forget what the kid's name from Oral Roberts is. I don't see him on this mock draft. It's interesting because you draft a high schooler who's 5 years out from the majors. You kind of don't know what you got.
It's tough. It's tough. It's tough to really. It's tough to really know if these guys can actually hit major league pitching. I mean, that's the hard part. That's why Major League Baseball is so hard to predict with the drafts and everything. Because because of that. You just don't know. There are guys who are unbelievable prospects in college and high school, and it turns out they can't hit major league pitching, which is crazy.
I remember the Phillies. They eventually caved and traded him for Roy Halladay. Thank God. They had this guy. You remember Doug Drabek?
Doug Drabek?
Yeah.
The pitcher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Phillies had his kid in the farm system.
Oh yeah. That's right. And he got hurt, right? Kyle Drabek.
Well, no, he was like pitching good, and everyone's like, "Oh, we can't trade this kid for Roy Halladay. Like,
yeah,
he's untouchable." I'm like, "What? Like, no, like."
No,
guy's 4 years away from the majors, and he ended up not working out at all. I think he got hurt.
No, and if it's Roy Halladay, come on. Roy Halladay was at the time, everybody knew Roy Halladay was one of the great pitchers in the game. I mean, that was no secret.
Me, Metal Mike, you don't see many Big Ten baseball players make the big leagues, unlike football or hockey. I'll tell you what, though. Maryland has a shortstop. I have his name right here, who's a stud. And he's going to get picked in the first round. What's his name? There's so many guys. I'll get it. Hold on. I just had it. Well, anyway, there's a shortstop from Maryland out of the Big Ten that's going to get picked in the first round of the draft, probably. And, Matt Shaw is his name. So if you're a Big Ten guy and you like that, you can hang your hat on that. I do want to get to hockey, Brad. Don't forget Sports Jeopardy's coming up right after us on the Sports Hound. Andy Ritter, Frank Besby. I'm not sure who the matchup is tonight. You'll have to tune in to find out. So keep it locked in here on A2D Radio for the rest of the night. Get some sports trivia action in. And I'll get to what you sent me on the when we talk about basketball.
Okay, yeah,
I don't agree. I don't agree with it at all. But
no, but I mean, I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about what was said and who said it in a little bit. Yes. So stay tuned for that. But Brad, I just saw a trade come across. Taylor Hall traded from the Bruins.
Where did he go?
I just had it.
So I haven't looked since we started the show. Is that something just came up?
The Blackhawks acquire Hall, so they got him
money. That's a money move. They got him. Probably. Did the Bruins attach a draft pick to it?
Well, this guy says basically they're trying to get another guy to play with Bedard.
Oh, okay, understood. But they still. Okay.
Top line winger they could pair with Connor Bedard, the presumed number one pick. The Chicago Bird, whom Chicago is expected to take Wednesday. Sign veteran wingers before free agency. So yeah, it's a money move. I don't see draft picks with it.
Yeah,
Don 19. Tommy versus Chucks tonight. That's a bloodbath if I've ever heard one. Gotta stay tuned for that. But Brad, keeping it in Philadelphia here, the Flyers are under a new regime in Danny Briere and Keith Jones. And they seem hell-bent on cleaning house and starting over and getting guys that fit what they want to do with John Tortorella. Looks like Kevin Hayes, Scott Lawton, Tony DeAngelo. I think Kevin Hayes would be traded already if Krug didn't hold the trade up with his no trade clause. So
yeah. So basically,
what are they doing? What are they doing, Brad? What is your interpretation of what is going on with the Philadelphia Flyers?
They want to accumulate as many first round picks as they possibly can. Okay, and they're going to be in full tank mode this season, and bring up a lot of kids and play with a lot of kids and see what they got, and draft. And this is a very good deep draft this year, and they want to take advantage and bring up as many kids and draft as many kids as they can. They're also going to end up getting a whole heck of a lot of cap space. So they're basically doing what the Rangers did. Okay, I mean when the Rangers finally said, okay, we can't win the cup back in 2016, they traded Hayes for a first round pick. I think they got Winnipeg's 18th pick, which eventually turned into getting traded back to Winnipeg for Jacob Trouba. They traded Zuccarello for a second round pick. I don't recall who the second round pick was. Who else did they? They traded Derek Stepan and Anthony Ranta to Winnipeg, not to Winnipeg, to the
Arizona,
Phoenix,
right?
Arizona Coyotes, right? And they got Tony DeAngelo and a first round pick who ended up being Elias Anderson, who was terrible. But their other first round pick that year was Philip Hedl, who's still playing and looks to be a top-notch player. That's kind of what they did. Then they went and they traded they had a bunch of second round picks. They traded 2 second round picks to Carolina for Adam Fox. And boy, how good would Carolina be if they still had Adam Fox? I mean, the Rangers got lucky there because Adam Fox grew up on Long Island, okay? And believe it or not, he was a Ranger fan and wanted to play for the Rangers and was not going to play for Carolina. Period. So they caught a huge break with that. So they got that, but basically, this is what the Flyers are trying to do.
So okay? This is tank mode.
This is tank mode, okay? And what you're going to see the Flyers do is they're going to probably when they get rid of these guys, when they get rid of guys like Hayes and DeAngelo, who it's very close to him getting traded to Carolina. Carolina just has to figure out their salary cap, and Lawton. They want to trade Lawton too. They're going to have a ton of cap space. So what's going to end up happening is that with all that cap space, you're going to see them pick up a couple of veterans, okay, who are, either on expiring contracts or maybe have 2 years left on their contracts, who are big money players. But when they get these guys, they're gonna take the money, and they're probably going to get a first or a second round pick from some team who's desperate and in salary cap hell. Because that's basically the Rangers did that with Mark Stahl. The Rangers traded Mark Stahl to Detroit, and they traded a second round pick to Detroit just to take Mark Stahl. They didn't get anything back in that trade.
Okay. Here's a comment. Now, I've been beating this drum for months. And maybe I don't understand hockey or how to build a hockey team, and it's probably true. Of the 4 major sports, I'm by far least knowledgeable about the X's and O's and roster building and the skill set that you need to build a winning hockey team. Admittedly,
that would be the one sport that I think I'm probably that's my.
Which is why we're such a great team here on A2D Radio, Brad. Thrashers fans.
I'm not a basketball person at all.
No, I got the basketball, you got the hockey, and then we'll fill in the gaps with the baseball.
Heart to Buffalo. That would
Heart to Buffalo would be interesting. If what you're saying is true, and they're going to tank, why on earth would you have an supposedly all-world goalie? I don't think the kid's that great on this team when you can just trade him for a bunch of picks and restack and restart over. If you're going to tank, go ahead and tank. Just don't do it like the Sixers and draft center, head case guard. And now you're in the same freaking position.
Listen, I think.
What's the point of having Carter Hart in this team? If I were the GM, I would have traded Carter Hart at the deadline last year. There's no point in having him on this team.
I'm going to tell you why you don't do it. Okay, he is considered by most GMs in the NHL as a franchise goalie. Okay, the most difficult position to find. There are actually the 2 most difficult positions to find are a number 1 center and a franchise goalie. Those are very, very difficult positions to fill. And part of the problem is when you're drafting, nobody drafts a goalie in number 1, unless you're Minnesota, who repeatedly never goes anywhere in the playoffs.
Whoa. Now this is where you lose. This is where you hockey guys lose me.
Okay.
It's the hardest position. It's the hardest position to find. It's the most important position in terms of winning a championship. Basically, if you don't have a good goalie, you can't win a championship. But
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely
no one takes goalies in the first round of the draft.
That's because it is so risky.
That doesn't make any sense, Brad.
No, the reason is because goalies take a little longer to develop. That's number one. Number two, it's like drafting a quarterback, Rob. Unless you think you have a sure thing, you don't draft one in the first round. You can't. You can't. It's too big of a chance you're taking. That's the problem.
I don't think the kid's that good, though. I think he's good.
I think he's very good, and I think his defense stinks. It's
always something. If they had better defense, this would happen. It's always excuse after excuse after excuse, and puckheads like you, diehard hockey fans that really understand the sport, tell me how I'm wrong, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't think he's that good. So if I can trade him to Buffalo and get a bunch of picks and players, young guys that can score, not these muckers and grinders that the Broad Street Bullies had in the 70s that the Flyers have been in love with 20 years past their time, I'm doing it.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong about that.
Why do I need Carter Hart, a supposed franchise goalie, on this team in a full-on tank rebuild?
Okay. By the time it's going to take them probably 2 years to get this team and the future team that's going to be making the playoffs.
I'll have the next Carter Hart by then. There's going to be another Carter Hart.
The thing is, he's only 24 years old.
But Brad, my point is there always another prospect.
There is.
Elliot De La Cruz is the flavor of the month in the MLB.
But it's hard.
Who's behind him? Another one on some other team.
But it's hard. It's very hard to find a franchise goalie. It just is, Rob. It's not that easy. If you take a look around the league, there's only maybe 5 or 6 of them.
I don't understand why the Flyers need a franchise goalie when the goal is to win 10 freaking games next year. I don't get it.
Because
trade him, recycle, and find the next Carter Hart that's going to be entering his prime when you're good. Because I do believe in Keith Jones and Danny Briere. I do. I think they're going to get it right.
When you build a team, okay, you go inside out. Okay, that means you start with your goalie, then you draft defensemen, then you draft forwards.
Couldn't disagree more.
No, that's just how it's done. Take a look at how
I would do it.
Well, no, that's how the Rangers did it. A lot of teams do it that way. It's because the easiest thing to find are wings. Okay, the right wings and left wings.
For the Flyers, easy. Not over the past 20 years.
Maybe the Flyers have had. Maybe for the Flyers, but I'm telling you, to find a number one center is really hard. And if you happen to be lucky enough to have a number one center, you don't trade him period. Okay. They don't have a number one center. Okay. They have a number
Danny Briere, but Brad, Danny Briere and Keith Jones have communicated to me, a Philadelphia Flyers fan, that next year and probably the year after that and probably the year after that too are going to be dog shit.
Right. They're going to be development years.
So 25, 26, 27 for Carter Hart are going to be meaningless.
24 and 25 are going to be meaningless. 24, 25, and 25, 26. 26, 27 is when you can expect.
I'm talking about Carter Hart's age, not the year on the calendar.
Okay. 25 and 26 are going to be useless for him. Right. 27, but goalies come into their prime at 27. His timeline fits the present timeline. Look, if you could trade him to Buffalo for like Tage Thompson, of course you're going to do that. But Buffalo isn't going to do that.
But Brad, correct me if I'm wrong on this part. If I'm accumulating all these draft picks and they start hitting, like I'm going to have cheap goal scoring position players, ideally, right?
Yes.
So I can go out and buy a goalie.
You could.
If the point is to accumulate draft picks and lose on purpose and tank like the Blackhawks and the Ducks have been doing, why wouldn't you dump the asset that's going to bring back the most?
But how much do you think
it means you're half-assing your tank, and it's not going to work.
But how much do you think they're going to get for Carter Hart? That's the whole
question. That's a question for you in the Hockey Happy Hour.
Well,
I would just send a fax or an email to.
I would say they could get a first and a second round pick for him. A first and a second, not in the same season, but they could get a first and a second. They probably could get a first this year if they make a trade with Buffalo. But you're not going to get one of Buffalo's players because Buffalo is a young team, and they're not going to give up players that they covet. So I would think that would probably be. They would probably want to get, with the first round draft choice. If you could get the first round pick from Buffalo this year, I'm thinking I don't recall but I think it's like 10 maybe. That would be pretty darn good. But
all
again,
you hockey guys on the Hockey Happy Hour and yourself here on this program are telling me that first round picks in this draft that's happening on Wednesday are like buying Apple in 1970. It's can't miss, no brainer.
Pretty much. There's some really.
To me, you're half-assing the tank if you don't trade Carter Hart. What do I need Carter Hart to win 10 games? Was Carter Hart going to steal one and they'll win 12 games instead?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong about that. My only thing I'm telling you is that Carter Hart, the timeline works for him. And it's not that easy to get a franchise goalie. Yeah, you could buy another goalie, but
look, I get it, Brad. I've watched my whole elementary school, middle school, high school. Like the Flyers were loaded. They had goal scorers, they had defense, and they never had a goalie, and it cost them a cup. I get it; it's important, but. It's not that,
the
goal is to win 10 games.
But it's very, very difficult to get a franchise goalie. As I said, it's like trying to find a franchise quarterback. It's easier said than done. They don't become available very often. Okay, and when they do become available, they're usually making a shit ton of money. And or they're going to be free agent, and they probably will leave.
It's a huge risk because then you give a guy like Ilya Brizgalov, who was a complete head case, a bunch of money, and it doesn't work.
Right.
I understand my perspective.
And Philadelphia, remember one more thing, okay? And I'm not knocking Philadelphia when I say this. Philadelphia is a very difficult place to play as a goalie. Okay, it's a very difficult place.
Yeah, because you have jackasses like me. Podcast telling you how much you stink all the time.
You'll have a jackass like me yelling at him. You suck. You should have stopped that shot. What is wrong with you? Are you fucking blind? Or something like something along those lines. And you're gonna hear that. You're gonna hear booing. You're gonna hear booing and all that other stuff. That's not that easy. That's what I'm saying. It's not that easy. We are not player friendly fans unless the players are playing well. Okay. It's not like we're known or you're known to be the most patient fan bases. That's the problem. Okay?
No, but the Philadelphia fans are smart. Like Danny Briere and Keith Jones are laying out, like, this is what we have to do. We got to tear it down. We got to accumulate picks. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly, but like we're going to come out. We're smart. We believe in ourselves. We believe in the young guys we do have. We're going to come out the other end a strong hockey team. So look at the Detroit Red Wings last year. They traded the
playoffs, though.
Well, how are they going to make the playoffs? Because they committed to their rebuild. They traded their best player to the Boston Bruins for a first-round pick in this year's draft, which all the hockey nerds here on A2D Radio on the Hockey Happy Hour, and I say that with a term of endearment, hockey nerds.
Understood.
I love you guys. Because I love you guys, are telling me that it's like buying Google in 1994, first-round pick. So trade Carter Hart for a first-round pick and commit to your rebuild and come out the other end with a strong young core and then either buy a goalie with your cap space or draft the next Carter Hart. Prospects, man, they're always coming through. And you know what? Every prospect is better than the next. And the hype train with the internet and podcasts like us, It gets out of control. Not to mention, I don't think Carter Hart's that good. So Don 19, send Hart to Detroit. Yeah, give us your 2 first-round picks that you have in this draft, and you got a done deal. I'm not giving Carter Hart away.
Well, that's the whole point. If the Flyers, you tell me what they're going to get for him, okay, and then I want
picks for young players.
No, I want picks. Forget about young players. I want picks. I want guys that I can develop in my farm system to play the right way. I'm going to trust my coaches to develop them to play the right way, the way I want them to play, so I can build a team in my image that I want and to try to win. Listen, you put Carter Hart on the Bruins, okay? Or you put him on, let's say, Colorado.
Of course he's going to be good.
He's going to be great because you know what? They both have real good defenses, and he'd be an all-star.
But as Mean Metal Mike, Carter Hart's a franchise goalie, potentially generational with the right team.
Right.
Guess what? Philadelphia ain't the right team.
No, not right now. They're not.
We're in full tank mode, rebuilding. What's the point of having this guy? Just because it's not cool or in vogue to trade a guy as good as Carter Hart?
I think that.
Which, by the way, I'm still not sold that he's that great.
Well, I think the groundwork has already been set because they picked up a goalie. They picked up what's his name, Picard, I think, from the Kings and with the trade with the Kings. So that might be somebody that they just use next year to be their number one goalie.
Erison.
Yeah, Erison. Yeah, I mean they've got.
Is that the guy from the Kings? I don't know where.
That's not the guy from. That's not the guy from the Kings. I think the guy from the Kings is a second string goal. Was their second string goalie. Now I can't remember his name, but that's who I think is going to take over if they trade Hart for the next couple of years while they're oh boy, Don, you're being a little rough now.
Nah, he's good.
I know. Listen,
Flyers fan 1995. Hart's a damn good goaltender. No solid team is built around him. Is all that. That's why his numbers aren't solid.
He's not wrong.
Okay.
And the bottom line is, a lot of goalies are only as good as their defense, and if their defense is garbage, it's real hard. It's real hard to see them to see just how good they are.
Right. So the Flyers defense is going to suck next year, and they'll win 12 games, and they'll win 12 games instead of 10 because they have Carter Hart. Like, who cares? Who cares? Trade this guy for picks and commit to your rebuild and bring a parade to Broad Street for the first time in 70 years.
Listen, they might just do that. You know, all I'm saying to you is if they don't do it, understand why they're not doing it. Because, as I said, it's very hard to get a franchise goalie. I believe Carter Hart is a franchise goalie.
You don't need one right now. Is my main argument here.
But he's young enough, okay, and he's cheap enough to keep on your team.
But that's the point. That's the point in why you trade him is what I'm trying to explain to you, because this is what you're going to get the most for him.
I understand your point. And you know what? If you're the Flyers organization, I think the Flyers are seriously considering trading him. I think you're absolutely right. Look, if they get the right offer for him, they're going to trade him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're definitely going to trade him if they get the right offer. Okay? You got to wonder, though, what's the right offer? I think a first and a second will probably do it for the Flyers. But you know what? I think they would probably want to trade him to either Ottawa or Alex DeBrincat. Alex DeBrincat is really good, by the way, Don. I love him as a player. I would trade him to if you trade him to Ottawa. That would be good for the Flyers. Detroit, as Don said, and what's the other team? Buffalo would be a good choice too, because you're getting 3 teams who are pretty good teams, but they just weren't quite good enough to make the playoffs. But they're woefully short in goal. I mean, Buffalo was using Craig Anderson 40-year-old Craig Anderson was their goaltender. Now, the kid they brought up at the end of the year looked pretty damn good to me. So I'm not 100% sure Buffalo might want a goalie. Okay, but because I don't remember the kid's name, but that kid, he beat the Rangers twice in the last 2 weeks of the season, and I mean he was unbelievable.
Flyers fan, 1995. I'd say Ottawa, Seattle, Buffalo, and Montreal.
Montreal is not going to give up draft choices for him.
Alex DeBrincat, Don wants to know about. He's good. What is he?
He's really good. He's really good, and Ottawa got off to a terrible start last year. I think Ottawa just needs to get a goalie, and if Ottawa gets themselves, he would really be a good fit in Ottawa.
Carter Hart.
He would be a good fit, and you know what? You'd get a fairly high draft pick. I'm not sure where Ottawa's drafting. I would have to look. I don't remember all these things by heart. So some of my boys over at Hockey Happy Hour, they could tell you exactly what number he is without looking.
I will check it right now.
I think he's at top. I would say they're probably around maybe 13 or 12.
So it says that the Coyotes are drafting at 12, and they got the pick from Ottawa.
Oh, so Ottawa already traded their first round pick.
So Arizona has the 6th and the 12th pick.
Okay. So they have two
Ottawa
top
does
picks.
Not have a first round pick. So that a trade there
with Ottawa
would not make sense.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense. Nope, not to the Flyers.
Buffalo is picking 13.
I don't know if I would trade. I don't know if I would trade him for 13.
And then you said first and second rounder, so they actually have the Flyers' second round pick somehow, pick 39.
So you trade.
And Detroit is absolutely loaded on picks. Detroit's picking 41st, 42nd, and 43rd in the second round, and they are picking 17th and 9th in round 1.
So there's your team. So there's your
answer there.
Yeah, that's the that would be probably
get pick. What did I say?
Get pick 9.
Get pick 9 and get
43.
And 43, and now you have a goalie, and they're still loaded on picks, and what's being regarded as like the best draft ever.
They'll still have this number 17 in the first round, and they still have 2 second round picks, and they have all those really good young players. That would make a lot of sense. Because I mean, look, their goalie is Musso. I think Hart is much better than Musso. I'm not a big fan of his.
Typical Canuck dork 666 checking us out on YouTube. Do you have any advice for the Vancouver Canucks? Obviously,
oh boy,
talking to a Vancouver Canucks fan here.
Yeah, I mean, I would try to trade up if you could. I mean, I don't know if you're going to be able to. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with your top player? That's the key with the Canucks. I mean, are they going to keep him, or is he going to be traded? They got rid of. They got rid of. Who did they get rid of at the end? They got rid of one of their top. I think they got rid of Besser. Didn't they send him to the Islanders? So they got rid of him. They still have one really good. I'm trying to remember his name.
So the Canucks, they're picking 11th.
Okay, so they're picking 11th. See, if you could move up in the draft, if they could somehow move up in the draft, that would be nice. I think the Canucks just have to ride it out like the Flyers did. The Canucks have goaltending. That's not really an issue, and they've got some players. They just, for whatever reason, it just seems like, I mean, they're like the baseball edition of the Angels. They just find ways to screw things up every year. Let me take a quick peek at
and then for those while you're looking at that, for those interested, the Flyers have the 7th pick and the 22nd pick in the first round, and they have Nothing going on. Doesn't look like they have anything going on in the second round.
Okay, Elias Peterson and JT Miller. You guys, it's typical Canuck dork. You guys have to make up your mind what you want to do with JT Miller and Elias Peterson. Okay, are you going to keep them? Are you going to trade one of them? Because you could get an awful lot for either one of those guys. If you wanted to tank it and get a top player, JT Miller will get you a first round pick, and so will Elias Peterson. No doubt about it. Okay, I might consider trading Miller. Okay, he's making what, $6 million a year. I think he's a $6 million cap hit, but he's really good, and he you see it depends what you want to do. I mean, do you want to rebuild? I just think that a lot of the problems with that team is that they don't want to. They're either all in or they're not all in. They still have Peterson, they still have Miller. Okay, I mean, they still have Kuzmenko. Okay, I mean, they've got some players. They traded. I think they traded Bo Horvat to the Islanders, and they still have Besser. Yeah, they really need to. They really make up their minds what they want to do. That's part of the problem. I mean, Demko is a good goalie, so you've got the goaltending, and I think your defense isn't so bad either. You got to decide with your top level players are these the guys you want to go to war with? Because if they're not, then you need to get rid of one or two of them. That's as far as I'm concerned. I look at their roster, and they have a pretty good roster. They really do. I mean, they've got plenty of guys who can score. Elias Peterson last year had 39 goals, 63 assists, 102 points. Guy's a top-notch player. Miller had 82 points. He had 32 goals. Okay, Hughes is a really good defenseman. He had 76 points. Kuzmenko is a left wing. He had 74 points. They've got guys who can score. Okay, I mean, they seem to have enough muscle at the back. The problem with them is that they're going to have to find some defense, and they're going to have to stay healthy. Okay, Quinn Hughes is real good. I'd like to see them get a real top-notch. See, they would have done well if they would have gotten Provorov to play with him. I think that would have been a good move for them. That would have been good for them. Okay, and you'd have to give up a high pick, but that would be something that would be good. I mean, I hear you. You'd rather see the tank. Let's put it this way: you could accumulate a lot of first round picks. You can accumulate at least 2, maybe 3 first round picks for Peterson, and Miller. You could definitely get at least 1 first round pick.
All right, last comment. Last comment of the night. We'll get into some basketball after free agency starts next week with Doug, and we'll do the whole prospect future of the MLB thing. As Doug,
we also got to mention who said what, something about who.
Yeah, Dennis Rodman said Larry Bird would be playing in Europe these days. I don't agree with that at all.
No,
like at all, because Larry Bird would just stand in the corner. Push comes to shove, Larry Bird would just stand there and just shoot threes all day. And everyone's lazy in the NBA today. And guys like boneheads like James Harden would just stand there and watch them. Oh, there's another one from Larry. Oh, 3 more on the board for the Celtics.
Yeah.
I'm not going to close out or put a hand up or anything because I'm a fucking pussy.
I think he'd average 30. I think he'd average 30 points a game, Larry Bird, in today's NBA.
And Rodman's a legend, but I think he's off base on
that.
Yeah,
yeah, he gets himself.
So Don, to answer your question, do you want James Harden and Tobias Harris back in Philadelphia next year? I wish I had more thumbs so I could put more than 2 of them down. No, I've never seen a 6'8" player get stuffed at the rim more than Tobias Harris, and James Harden is just a straight loser. The fact that he's even considering going back to a team in Houston that's rebuilding instead of trying to win a championship in the latter stages of his career, when really the only thing he hasn't accomplished in the NBA is win something, just shows me how big of a loser James Harden is. So he can go back to Houston or Miami or LA or wherever the heck else he wants to go. I don't want him. And I like Tobias. He's a good player. He's not a great player. He gets paid too much money. That's not his fault. But slam it down one time, Tobias. You're 6'8". Get stuffed all the time at the rim. It's like impossible.
Well, he's making $37 million a year. Okay, he is a very and he's got on an expiring contract. He can be a very, very valuable. Did I say that right? Valuable piece at the trade deadline, right?
But the problem is, Brad, like they're probably going to bring Harden back, even though I don't want him. They're still going to have him beat, so they're going to get regular season wins. So they're not going to be in a position to sell at the deadline.
But if they trade him, won't they have $37 million extra dollars to play with
in the future?
Well, wouldn't they at least get a mid-level exception for that, though?
I can't.
I don't know. I mean,
Sports Jeopardy's coming up next. I can't do it with the Sixers tonight. I just can't. I can't because I gotta go to bed soon. I'm enough about the top, and my blood pressure is gonna be through the roof. I can't do it tonight with the Sixers. I can't. They stink. They stink. And guess what? Nick Nurse doesn't play two guard, so he is gonna be no different next year either. They're just going to run it back like a bunch of losers and lose again to the Celtics, and that'll be that. I just can't. I can't with the Sixers. All right, Tom versus Chucks coming up. Sports Jeopardy. Thank you to our listeners, our sponsors, Brad Ryer, Rob Brinkman, Doug Mankiewicz back next week. Stay tuned for Sports Jeopardy.
With the report.
Peace out, everybody.